Ladies and gentlemen, he is a branding strategist who makes his living by telling stories. Working for clients such as Citibank and Lot Polish Airlines, he has brought to our stage another of his stories on keeping your audience engaged every day and building your brand. Please welcome Paweł, brand strategist and CEO at MIDEA Poland.
As Paweł said, my name is Paweł and I make my living by telling stories. Sometimes I do it like this. I stand in front of the audience and try to teach them something. Sometimes I write. I wrote 2 books. One is on brand management, one is on gamification. And the most of my time I spent helping my customers tell their stories. I run a brand strategy company and I help my customers telling their stories because there are many people who have great products, who have great services, but the challenge they are facing is they need to tell the story in a way it's heard. So that's all you're going to hear about me. I would like to talk to you about your audience, about how you can engage them in a meaningful way. And we're not going to be talking only about digital marketing. This brand strategy involves also customer experience offline. So my presentation is a tale of twos, because you will learn that there's 2 types of audiences. There's 2 types of messages, and there's 2 types of media channels. And you need to juggle them all. You need to keep the balance for your social media strategy, for your content strategy to actually work. So let's start with the audience. Well, this is your audience. Well, they don't care. This is the guy who is watching, for example, a football game. And he's sitting at home in his own environment, and he couldn't care less, even though he says he does. But there's the second type of audience. This is also a guy watching a football game. So when we are talking about reaching your audience, first thing you have to think about is where they actually are. Because the division of the audience is like this. One is passive audience. This is the first guy. He's detached. He's not so engaged. His environment, works against you because he is looking at the screen. He is looking at the computer screen. He's looking at the phone screen. He's looking at the TV screen, and he's detached. The second type of audience is some so-called immersed audience. These are the people who are immersed in the experience. And these are the people who experience more. They can be watching the same football game, but they experience more. But I told you they can be watching the same football game, but there's 2 types of messages. And in order to keep engagement of your audience, you have to consider 2 types of messages when you are designing a brand experience for your user. The first kind of experience is something called repeated experience. It's when the customer doesn't want to feel emotions. He doesn't want to care. It's like when you are designing a login process in your application, this is not an emotional experience. This is something that should stay the same throughout the process. So you can have an unemotional customer and he will be happy. Because if you give him emotion here and there, he will not be happy. The second kind of messages is something called improvised messages. So the registration process is an improvised message, is an improvised experience. And your customer should be feeling emotions when he's going through the improvised experiences. And what happens when we combine the 2? There's a space. Space of brand touchpoints, space of customer experiences. And when people come to me and say, Paul, could you help us design the brand? They focus on the lower left area, repeated and passive brand touchpoints. And many of them are not aware that there are many spaces around that provide much more engagement, but are not designed in a traditional way. Because look what you have here. In the lower left, you have TV ad. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Paul, could you help me design this brand strategy? I ask them, what do you have in mind? And they say, okay, I want my brand to have TV ad. I want my brand to have a brochure. I want my brand to have a website. All these are passive messages, repeated messages to the passive customer. He's staying at home, he's looking at the screen, there's no engagement, there's no true engagement there. But what else can you design for your brand? Well, you can design welcome process. You can design start meeting. This is where you are seeing your customer face to face and he has some expectations. When you are entering the shop, you have some expectations. The way you design the process, the way you design these experiences really matters. Yet many brands just forget about it. The process of ordering a product is a repeated process. The consumer is willing to learn this process because he knows he will be repeating it, and you need to design this so he feels good about it. The things that customers do not want to learn is the procedure when something goes wrong. This is the moment when they are improvising on their own will, but it's you who has to design this process so that this improvisation is not heavy, is not weighing heavy on the customer. Social media is kind of improvisation when we are talking about the brand touchpoints, because the customer opens your Facebook fan page and, well, he doesn't know what to expect. So this is something you have to do. And the holy grail of the customer engagement, this upper right corner, the new product launch, when you are meeting your customer face to face and he doesn't know what to expect, this is something that needs to be designed as well. Conference like this is also face-to-face event, and we don't know what to expect. There's an agenda, of course, but most of this is, to speak frankly, this is an innovation. So these are brand touchpoints combined together. But I told you about the media channels. The media channels, there's two divisions of media channels as well. There's the second tail of twos, because messages that you design are delivered through channels. So you can divide channels two-way. First, there's public channel and there's private channel. In public channel, you are talking to basically everybody. And everybody knows you are talking to everybody. It's like billboards on in the city. Then there's a private channel. It's like chat, when I am talking only to you. I may not be talking only to you, but you are not aware of this. And the second division is between one-way communication channel, when you are sending the message and then there's no way of replying. Again, a billboard or TV ad is a one-way communication stream. You are sending the message, but there's no way for the customer to talk back. And there's two-way communication. And again, you have some spaces here. And TV ad from the previous slide belongs here. It's a public one-way message. The brochure belongs here. The website belongs here. These are all public one-way messages, and they do not generate engagement in a way that other areas in this graph do. So in public two-way, you have, for example, Facebook fan page. You post something on Facebook, everybody knows it's posted to everybody, but they can reply. You have a blog, and it also belongs here. On this side, I frankly don't know. There's one-way private communication channel. I would say letter, but there's a possibility to answer the letter. Let's talk about this. Mailing, newsletter. It's a two-way private communication. And this is the part when most of the companies who are planning the social media or any communication strategy do it wrong. They treat newsletter as public communication. There's live chat on your website. There's communication to everybody on your website, but there's live chat channel when you can just talk one-on-one with the customer. And what most marketers do wrong Well, the secret of engagement is do not send a brochure, so something that belongs here in the lower left, through newsletter, email, the channel that belongs to the upper right. Because I want my mailbox to contain private messages. And if you are sending me public ones, I will send you to spam. This is a secret of engagement. But the last tale of twos is on keeping the audience engaged. Because let me ask you this. What do you do with your spare money? You earn money, you pay your bills, and there's something left. And there's two ways you can use that money. Well, you can spend it all. It feels good, but nothing remains. So when the rainy day comes, you have no money. The other strategy is to save it all. Well, this might seem like a smart strategy, but you build capital over time. But where's the fun in that? You do not feel like you are living. Well, we are talking about content marketing. Let me talk to you about Kissmetrics research. 80% of activities below a Facebook post happens within 1 hour after it's been published. This is the 2015 research. 96% of activities occur within the first 24 hours. Then, nothing happens. If you are building engagement on your Facebook fan page, it feels like this treadmill for a hamster. You are posting and posting and posting, but nothing happens. You build nothing. You're just keeping your audience engaged. So how do you build something? How do you build engagement? Well, there's a question of blog. When does a blog post reach 96% of its activities? The same Kissmetrics research. Do you know the answer to this question? Well, after 2 years. Well, on one condition. The content you are providing must be a stock content. These two ideas are called stock and flow. Stock content is something that builds value over time. Flow content keeps the engagement here and now. And there are stock and flow channels, like blog posts, newsletter, YouTube channel, or our stock channels. If you are running a YouTube channel over a year, it builds value. If you are running a Facebook page for over a year, it doesn't build value. The content there doesn't build value. Providing you are keeping with the messages. There are stock messages like guide, like comparison. They do not lose relevancy over time, the story. And there's the flow messages, like meme, like comment, like news, opinion, and so on and so on. So this is the balance. The question I wanted to leave you with is, can you keep the balance between these two? This passive and immersed audience, between repeated and improvised messages, between private and public channels, between one-way and two-way. This is everything you need to create a meaningful content marketing strategy. But I want to leave you with one last thing. This balance is important, but there's one more important thing. Your customer is not thinking with channels. He's not thinking with messages. Your customer is thinking with stories. If you don't have a meaningful story to tell through all these channels, all the balance will mean nothing. So remember, your customer is thinking with stories. Thank you very much.